Hello and welcome to day 6 of the Career Success Doctor's video challenge. I'm Jane Lewis and I am the Career Success Doctor. Yesterday I talked to you about how our fears and beliefs limit us, how they stop us really being the magnificent beings that we were put on the planet to be. Today I'd like to talk to you about some tips for changing some of those beliefs. Now, I'm not talking here about suddenly believing that you are the most amazing person on the planet, although of course you are, but sometimes it's difficult to believe that. I'm not talking about suddenly believing something that all your life you believed not to be true. I'm talking about some ways that you can observe yourself, and in observing yourself and the way you are, the way you behave, the way you act and the energy you put out there, how you can start to use that information to change the way you behave and think about yourself. So, one of the things that we can do is to take responsibility for our behaviours and actions and the results that we get in our lives. Now, most people, if you say to them, do you take responsibility for your own behaviour and the results you get? Most people will say, yes, of course I do. But the truth is that even when we think we're taking responsibility, very often we're not, at a much deeper unconscious level. I'll give you, for instance, a friend of mine works in an industry where there's a minimum wage. It's not very high, but there is a minimum wage. And sometimes he works as a contractor, and sometimes he works as a subcontractor. When he works as a contractor, he usually gets work that's very well paid. When he works as a subcontractor, there's one particular guy that he works with, and the pay is truly not great. It's above the minimum, but yeah, it's not great. So, just before Christmas, my friend was having a conversation with this contractor, and the contractor said he'd like to get together and have a think about how they could start to do things differently in the way of doing a better job and perhaps getting new business. But they needed to sit down and get together and talk about this. My friend's reaction was, well, this job isn't that well paid. I turn up, I'm professional, I do a good job, but to be honest, it's not really worth the extra time of sitting down for a couple of hours and redesigning things. Suddenly, and without warning, the contractor lashed into him. He accused him of being unprofessional, he accused him of doing everything wrong, he said he didn't do a great job, there were much better people out there than my friend, and a few other things which we won't go into here. And my friend was devastated, absolutely devastated. It was so unexpected. So he contacted me and said, what do I do? What's going on? How do I, what? And as we talked, something that I noticed when he talked about this work was that it was very much, this is a job. I turn up, I do it, it's a job. They don't pay me enough to do anything over and above what they're asking of me. But I do a very good job when I'm there and when I'm doing it. But something about his energy when he talks about it, something about his energy, I believe, when he's doing it, leaks out that he's not 100% committed, that he's only committed up to the level at which they pay him. And I explained this to them. I said, I noticed this. And he went, And he thought about it for a while. And he thought, yeah, okay, maybe, just maybe, you have a point. And as the days have passed, the weeks have passed, he's come to realise that yes, he did have a responsibility in this situation. There was something that he was doing, there was a particular way that he was behaving, there was a particular way that his energy was coming out that caused this contractor to have this reaction and effectively to sack him. So sometimes things happen and we don't think that we have any responsibility in the matter. And I'm not talking about fault or blame here. I'm just talking about taking responsibility. So my top tip there is, when things happen to you that you're not best pleased about, take a look at how you might have caused that to happen. What is your responsibility in that situation, particularly when it's a reaction from somebody else about something. Another thing that you can do is use other people as a barometer. So let's say somebody says something to you which is not true. Somebody criticises your work or criticises you as a human being, and you know it's not true, and yet it hurts. The reason that it hurts is because at some level they've touched a tiny core, a tiny sliver of truth. At some level, you know that what they're saying has a truth to it. It's what we often call a blind spot, when somebody says something and at the deeper level you know it's true. So when you do find yourself in those situations where somebody gives you some feedback and it hurts at some level, or it makes you angry at some level, or it makes you frustrated at some level, pause for a moment and ask yourself, is there any way at any level where there might be a sliver of truth in what they're saying? Use the world as your barometer, because when you use the world as your barometer, then you start to see yourself how other people see you. You start to see what energy you're putting out there, and then you know what you can change. So I hope you found this top tip today useful. If you want to know more, as ever, please visit thecareersuccessdoctor.com or my Facebook page, The Career Success Doctor, where there are more tips, more hints, more information, and I would be absolutely delighted to hear from you.